Hey everybody, it's Yoli Medina, and today I'm going to be talking about the Idaho 4 case. And for those of you who happen to run across this case or this video and don't know what it's about, this is the case where Brian Koberger pled guilty to unaliving 4 University of Idaho students. They were brutally unalived in a home near the University of Idaho. And he pled guilty, and because he pled guilty, now there are certain things that the Moscow Police Department and the Idaho State Police they're putting out information because previously there was a gag order, and some of the information and documentation has already been put out for the public to see. However, a limited amount of information has been released regarding the photographs of the crime scenes. And the crime scenes, the photographs, well, let me put it this way, the crime scenes are pretty bad. These students were unalived in a very brutal way with a knife. And unfortunately, a knife sheath was found underneath Maddie Mogen. And that's the knife sheath that the state used to prosecute Brian Koberger because it had trace DNA. It had a single source trace DNA skin cells on the button snap of the knife sheath. Now, it's controversial how they got that match to the knife sheath insofar as the feds, they did I wouldn't say unlawful, but they violated their policy to go into a database, which is a genetic genealogy database, to come up with a family tree that would eventually lead to Brian Koberger. And so that's how they got to Brian Koberger per Mr. Nye, who is the state attorney that was assisting in prosecuting this case. And the state attorney, Mr. Nye, said that but for the fact that they were able to get this information through the knife sheath, they probably wouldn't have had or wouldn't have been able to prosecute Mr. Koberger. So this knife sheath and how it was found is a point of contention. Now, it was found allegedly underneath Maddie Mogen's body. And there's contradictory information about how it was found and who saw it first and whatnot. I think it was Corporal Payne that saw it first. So there's controversy around it. And one of the things that the public wants to see, some of the public anyway, is the body cam of when the knife sheath was found. So Maddie Mogen, who was one of the victims that was unalived, and Ethan Chapin, who was also one of the victims that was unalived, their families are now they filed a ex parte relief for an injunction to prevent the further dissemination of any body cam or photographs depicting their loved ones. And this is set to be heard this week in a public hearing. It's going to be live streamed, I believe. And they do not want these photographs to come out to the public or the body cam that the officer was wearing or officers were wearing when they came across this knife sheath. So far, we haven't seen any photographs of the knife sheath that I'm aware of. So people on the one hand want to respect the family's wishes, and I understand that. And it's basically the right of privacy, one of the things, because a person has a right to privacy as to how they pass. On the other hand, because the knife sheath has been subject of controversy, the public may have a right to know how the knife sheath was found. Who found it? How did they find it? If there's camera finding it, because it is the main, if not the only thing that allowed the prosecution to bring charges against Brian Koberger. So the court, and I believe it's in the court in Latah County, the court is going to have to make a decision at this court hearing this week. Preliminarily, they put a stop to everything. So the media or the Moscow Police Department, neither of them can release any photographs depicting the crime scene, specifically with Maddie Mogen and Ethan Chapin. So that's stopped for now. So the court hearing this week is going to determine, one, if it should be permanently stopped, or an injunction should be put to permanently stop these photographs from being disseminated. And it might go to a further hearing because they might want the parties to brief their positions, meaning the Moscow Police Department and Maddie Mogen's mother and Ethan Chapin's parents. But in any event, this was a temporary stop. And so what the families had filed is a temporary restraining order, which temporarily stops the release of these photographs. And there was a very, very good interview, I should say, between Brian Anton and the attorney for Maddie Mogen's mom. And then Ethan Chapin's parents have since agreed to come on board with Maddie Mogen's mother in terms of releasing photographs or body cam that depicts their loved one unalived in a brutal manner. Boy, this is a hard one. I'm going to post the interview. Most of you may have seen it, but maybe not. The interview between Brian Anton and the family's attorney. He explains everything very well. He explains it. He wants resolution. He doesn't want to have to sue in another action the city of Moscow or anybody else who shows these moments of their loved ones unalived in a brutal way. So I like their attorney and I like his approach. And I'm going to put the video link in the description box. Now, there is, in California at least, there is a case, a very well-known case, where the widow of Kobe Bryant filed a lawsuit against the sheriff's department, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, for leaking photos of the helicopter crash that killed Kobe Bryant and their daughter, along with another coach and his daughter. And so I want to share that with you because there is a basis for this. Even though people want to see it, they want to see where that knife sheath was found, because that is the single most important thing that allowed the state of Idaho to bring the charges against Brian Koberger. And I understand that. And so I want to read the article. Let me share. So this is Vanessa Bryant, who is the widow of Kobe Bryant. And she settled the claim with Los Angeles County for nearly $29 million in a helicopter crash lawsuit. So I'm going to read it. Vanessa Bryant settled her remaining claims, and by remaining claims, it means that she sued the helicopter operator and the company as well for negligence. So it says Vanessa Bryant settled her remaining claims with Los Angeles County on Tuesday for $28,850,000 over photos that members of the sheriff's department shared after the helicopter crash that killed her husband Kobe and daughter Gianna in January 2020, according to county attorneys. Quote, today marks the successful culmination of Mrs. Bryant's courageous battle to hold accountable those who engaged in this grotesque conduct. She fought for her husband, her daughter, and all those in the community whose deceased family were treated with similar disrespect. We hope her victory at trial and this settlement will put an end to this practice. And this was Louis Lee, Vanessa Bryant's attorney, who said in this statement. LA County attorneys said they hoped that the Bryant and Chester families would be able to heal from their loss. Quote, we believe the settlement approved by the board, and that's the Los Angeles County Board of the Board of Los Angeles County. Okay, it says, we believe the settlement approved by the board in the Bryant case is fair and reasonable. The $28,850,000 settlement includes the verdict awarded by the federal jury in August 2022 and further resolves all outstanding issues related to pending legal claims in state court, future claims by the Bryant children, and other costs, with each party responsible for its respective attorney's fees. Mira Hashmo, partner at the Miller Barondis law firm and lead trial counsel for LA County in the Bryant-Chester case, she said in a statement. Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna were headed to a basketball game at his Mamba Sports Academy in Thousand Oaks, along with others connected to the basketball program, on January 26, 2020, when the helicopter they were traveling in crashed in Calabasas. All 9 people on board were killed. Vanessa Bryant filed a lawsuit several months after the crash against the Los Angeles County, alleging that first responders took graphic photos of human remains at the scene as souvenirs and shared them with others. She claimed she suffered emotional distress and sued for negligence and invasion of privacy. In August 2022, a jury awarded Vanessa Bryant $16 million in her invasion of privacy trial against Los Angeles County. So, there is a basis, according to the attorney for the families in the Idaho 4 case. It sounds like there's a basis, and I'm not giving legal advice or anything like that, but based on what the attorney for Maddie Mogen's mother and the Chapins, it sounds like there might be a basis. And he talked about another case in Idaho, and he seems to know what he's talking about. And I don't think he or the families want to file some kind of lawsuit for emotional distress. I think what he wants is to stop the release of these photos, I wouldn't say awful photos of their loved ones unalived in a very brutal fashion. And we don't know what happened exactly, but we know that they were stabbed a lot of times. And Maddie Mogen's and the Ethan Chapin family, they've been very low key until now. And it's very, very sad. And I would hate to be the judge that's going to decide on this as to whether these photos get released or not. My thinking is that if this case would have gone to trial, some photos would have been shown to the jury. And in terms of a defense counsel like Ann Taylor wanting to challenge the knife sheath and where it was found and how it was, how it was found, and wanting to show the body cam of the officers, that probably would have been shown to the jury, but it may not have been shown to the public. Because the status of the unalived, of the bodies, and the blood loss and everything else. We saw some pictures. Some pictures were released, not all. And quite frankly, this is such a difficult case. There's so many things so many legal issues regarding this case, and that's why it interests me. Um, I like to hear people talk about it. I have speculated about this case, and clearly the documents that have come out recently, there are reports of officers who are summarizing their interviews with witnesses. So to me, that's not necessarily important because I would like to hear the recordings of these interviews, because the police officers are just taking down their notes, and that would never be admissible in court, uh, because it's hearsay, and hearsay, there's a lot of exceptions, but there's also rules regarding that, and the police officer's report isn't necessarily going to come into evidence, not at all, or maybe not even. The officer's testimony would, and the people who are talked about in the police reports, those persons' testimony would come in, but not the reports necessarily. So there is a basis, and I can't believe this case has come to this. I mean, it's so sad because my godson he was in a fraternity at USC, University of Southern California, and they partied hard. So I know, that happens, but this is, I really am interested in how the judge is going to rule. I hope she rules in favor of the families, and pretty much the only person who, or the only persons who should be able to look at these photographs or body cams of where they found the knife sheath are any appellate attorney that's going to take Brian Koberger's case, or, a media source that can report accurately. I mean, I don't know. You don't have to show the photographs or the body cam if you have somebody trustworthy that's going to report and say, yes, the knife sheath was, and describe it. But I don't know that we have that at this point in time. And, somebody is going to possibly leak photographs. And the attorney for the families made a good point. He said, these families, like, they go on Facebook, to look at, they communicate. That's how people communicate nowadays, Instagram, Facebook. And they're worried every day that something's going to pop up, and they're going to show the pictures of their loved ones at their worst when they passed. And I understand that. And it's a real thing. And it sounds like Idaho law could support such a thing. And I think the attorney for the families, they don't want to file that kind of lawsuit where they sue the city of Moscow for millions of dollars because they disclosed all of these photographs and body cam. They just want it not to be released. And it's going to be a fight, I think. It is. I just hope that everything gets resolved and people get satisfaction as to the result. But I'll tell you, this is a hard one. Very hard. In any event, so those are my thoughts on the lawsuit for or the injunction filing to prevent any further release of the photographs or body cam regarding Maddie Mogen and Ethan Chapin. It's a very sad case. No family member or parent should have to go through this. And I'm very disappointed that the family weren't asked to come and look at the photographs before they were released, so they know what they are, because it sounds like they don't know. I don't know if I have no idea, but that's what it sounds like. And I'm going to post the interview, Bryant Enton and the family's attorney in the description box. And I'm also going to post a link to the Vanessa Bryant article regarding the invasion of privacy and emotional distress claims that she brought against the sheriff's department and settled for a substantial amount. So be careful when you share photographs of victims at their last, after they've been unalived in such a bad, brutally awful manner.